Hello, everybody. It's Stephen here for the Idiot Quilter, and welcome to my weekly episode. It is episode number 367 for August the 4th, 2026. Yeah, and I hope your week's been going okay so far. For us in Canada, we just came off a long weekend. The civic holiday weekend, that's what we call it here in Ontario. Each province has a little slightly different name for it. But yeah, it was a long weekend, but then when you're retired, every weekend's a long weekend. At least it is for me. So let's take a look at current projects once I've had a little coffee and try to keep my throat from croaking up. And here we go. You saw it yesterday and you saw it last week. And sorry, every morning I start my thing, my vlog, and I get all choked up. Maybe I should go out and do me exercises or something. But anyways, I told you yesterday, I let you see this, but I want to tell you more about this. It is an in the hoop project. What's an in the hoop project, you might ask, if you're new to embroidery? In the hoop means that you create all the parts for whatever project you're doing, whether it is a wall hanging like this, which is made up of a series of 9 tiles. They can vary in size. There I go, I'm getting that frog again. But this particular one is 3 rows of 3. And it's all thread. Now, there's something called in the hoop applique, which it is what it says. You're doing your applique in the embroidery hoop. And in that case, the embroidery machine looks after the stitching out where your fabric has to go, and something called a tack down line, which does what that says. It tacks down your fabric, you trim the fabric, and then it'll finish it off with some stitch, usually a satin stitch. Well, this isn't quite like that. This doesn't have any fabric in it except for the background fabric. The rest of it is all done with thread. Yes, this is a very time-consuming type of project because it's all thread. Each one of these little tiles, and I've already mentioned there are 9, take about 2 hours to sew out. It probably will take you a little longer than that because if you have to change thread colors, and you do, then yeah. So these are not projects you can throw together and give to somebody the next day. You need to have a plan for this. You need to have it scheduled, and you need to give yourself lots and lots of time to work on it. But I do love doing them. Now, my big problem with this one is I don't know what I'm going to do with it now that it is done. I don't have anywhere to hang it. I mean, I could swap out something that's already hanging on the wall when we get closer to, like, in October. October, I will do my fall and Halloween decorating. I might do that. I might even give it to somebody, but I'm not sure who. I don't know if my sister would like it. My nephew just recently moved with his girlfriend into a house. That might be nice there. I don't know. We'll see. But I love the journey. And that's the thing. If you do these kind of projects, you should decide whether or not you're doing it for somebody, or if you're doing it for yourself, or if you're doing it for yourself and then you're going to give it to somebody. Because it's the fun, it's the inspiration, it's for you, okay? So for me, the final product isn't usually as important as getting to the final product, the journey. And, well, doing an in the hoop project is challenging, but very doable. And this is just another example of where your embroidery machine is for much, much more than just doing monochromes on bath towels or singlets or something like that. There are so many different projects you can do. And I have shown you in the past some of the different projects I have done, like the 3-dimensional creations, these wall hangings, appliques, all that kind of thing. And I love it. I absolutely love doing these things. So I'm very pleased with the way this turned out. I was really happy I got it on sale because these do not tend to be cheap. It was a 50% off sale, and that's usually when one of my sites that I go to, like OESD or Designs by Juju or Sweet Pea, I will watch for their sales. And when they have a really good sale, and they often do, I will stock up on projects that I have thought in the past I want to do, but they were just a teensy bit too expensive. Let's face it, any hobby that you're going to be doing is going to cost you, okay? You if you're going in with an attitude that you can do things inexpensively on any hobby, and it doesn't matter whether it's in machine embroidery, quilting, sewing, knitting, whatever your hobby is, it's going to cost. And you've got to use good quality products. And those are going to cost you even more money. Don't cheap out, especially don't cheap out on something like this that has like 50 to 60,000 stitches in each tile. Because if you use the cheap stuff, it's going to take you even longer to do it because your thread's going to break all the time. And also your fabric or the tile you're creating is going to pucker. You have to use other products. You have to use stabilizers for these things too. So yeah, it all adds up. It's not a cheap project. And as such, if you're going to give it away, you want to make sure they are embroidery wall hanging worthy. Yeah, if you're going to spend the time and the money to make something like that, you want to make sure the person that's going to get it will appreciate it. Okay, so the next project are the portfolios. Now, these are a fun little project that you can do any time of the year. I'm making these as Christmas presents. The portfolios, I used to get them from a dollar store here in Canada called Dollarama. I bought quite a few of them, and if you remember last year when I showed you what I was making for Christmas, I had a version of these portfolios that I was doing as well as for gifts. However, I can't get those ones anymore, and I've been hunting high and low, and I continue to hunt. Maybe they'll get in some before Christmas. In the meantime, I went on to Temu, and I bought 8 of these ones. They came in a package of 2, one in a light gray, the other one in a dark gray. They are a different design, but they're the same size. And the difference in the design comes with the snap. The ones I was buying from Dollarama were just a flap with an elasticized band that held the flap down. These ones had the snap built in, which I kind of like. Because when I was trying to put that elasticized band back into the other ones, it just couldn't. Once it was sprung, kind of a thing, it was sprung. And it was difficult to sew in because there was very little of that band there, because they were made, cheaply in that way. So what I did was I put my own snap in. But these ones have a snap built in, so that's great. I do have to take them apart to put them into my embroidery machine, but that's very easy. You just open up the flap, and on either side is a line of stitching. You just get out your seam ripper, and they come out very easy, and open it all out. And then you position it under your hoop for your design. You have to work on that. You have to figure that out, which way the design's going to go. And away you go. You sew. I do use a stabilizer with these. You could probably get away without stabilizer, but I like the stabilizer for exactly what it's for, stabilizing. Excuse me. And I use a tearaway. So when it's done the embroidery, most of the stabilizer I can pull out. And it's on the inside of the portfolio anyways, and no one's going to see it. So that's fine. I learned from the ones I made last year not to get too elaborate a design, because it will take you forever to make one of these if you do, especially if you're making multiples as I am. So I decided also on a fairly, I guess it's kind of a fall winter look with the leaves, but it could be used all year round. Last year I put Christmas gnomes, and so there was definitely a Christmas theme, but I thought this year I should open that up a bit. These are not huge in the sense that they don't hold that much, but they'll hold, 5, 6, 8, maybe as many as 10 sheets of 8.5 by 11 paper in them. So that's okay. And I'm kind of thinking of printing out my patterns that I've created and make them into a little booklet kind of a thing and throw them inside here as part of the gift. So these do take a long time to do as well, because by the time you've pulled it apart, got it hooped, um, I altered this design a little bit. And so I saved the altered version of my design in my embroidery machine. So now I know exactly, I don't have to play around with positioning every time. I know exactly when I hoop up the portfolio, how it's positioned in the hoop. And I load up the file and away it goes. And it's exactly where I want it to be. Um, so they take probably a couple of hours to make with them. And then you sew them back up on the sides, and it's just easy, just a straight stitch under and your on your sewing machine, and yeah, it works. So I think they're kind of a unique kind of gift. As I said, I'm still hunting through the Dollaramas to see if they come out with some of those other ones, but I know I can get these on Temu, and what I may do down the road is I may order maybe 8 more just to have as spares, or you never know when you need something for a gift. Excuse me while I have some coffee. I can still feel a little bit in my back of my throat, but we carry on. Okay. This is not mine. This is Walter's. You saw it the other day. Walter had been to a class, and I explained that the other day. He made the blocks for this in the class, but he didn't go to the last class because he got sick. This is several years ago now, just at the start of COVID. Don't think he had COVID at the time, but not sure. I think it was just a bad cold. But either way, he missed the last class where they assembled all of this. So they've been sitting up in his sewing room for several years, for probably at least 3 years, maybe 4. And he decided, now that he's gotten into free motion quilting, that he'd like to finish this. And it does have potential. There's a lot of negative space on here that would really let his free motion shine. So I said, give me the blocks. I'll sew it all together for you. And I did, and I slapped a border on it. And now he's got another quilt that, if he blows it with his free motion quilting, these are his words, not mine. I doubt that he's going to blow it. It doesn't matter for this one, because this is it's not a throwaway. It's a nice quilt. But, he's not married to it. So he's looking at it more or less as, hey, whatever happens, happens. So, yeah, that's on his pile of things to do. And speaking of Walter's free motion quilting, has he been doing any? He hasn't really done any this week so far, but this is only Tuesday. But he is at the point now, I think he's ready for us to mount the next project he wants to work on Lucy, which is a large panel that has a big flower on it. And you probably have seen this particular panel because they were floating around a few years ago. They were very, very popular. They're very pretty. And a lot of people were using them to do free motion quilting on, or thread painting, or that kind of thing. So he wants to try that. So that means we have to take off what he's been working on, which is basically bed sheets. And I need to clean up Lucy and get her all lubricated up and ready to go for his next project. And when he starts on that and works on it, I'll be sure to show you pictures of what he is doing. And maybe we'll do a little video as well of Walter's progression on the next level, I guess you might call it, of projects. Okay, so that's what we've been up to. So what's coming up? Well, Sewing with me, Sewing with Stephen, always on Wednesdays. Links in the show notes. Everybody is welcome. Come and go as you please. So, yep. And speaking of coming and going as you please, Pop-Up Sew Day. We haven't had one of those since my birthday in the middle of July. So I am tentatively planning to have one on Saturday, August the 22nd. Once we get closer to that date, I will give you all the details, and I'll have a link for it in the show notes below. It is a Zoom. It is free. You don't have to sign up for it. It's come and go as you please. It's very much like a sew day on Wednesdays. The only difference is it's on a Saturday. And the reason I put pop-up sew days on Saturdays is because there were many people who wrote to me or made comments over time that they really wish they could join in on the Wednesday sew days, but for one reason or another, that day isn't available to them. I mean, I forget sometimes that because I'm retired doesn't mean everybody's retired. Some people still work. And, other things in life that people do as well. So that's why I decided to have a pop-up sew day at least once a month. That'll always be on a Saturday, but the dates vary. So, as I said, the next one will probably be, I'm pretty sure it's going to be, but don't hold me right to account for that, on Saturday, August the 22nd. So stay tuned for the definitive statement about that. And we're going off on our own little private shop hop. And I'm hunting. I am on the hunt for Christmas fabric. We're going off to Western Ontario, down to the Cambridge, Guelph, Waterloo, Kitchener area. This is Mennonite country, and there are many quilt shops down there. And we haven't been there in several years. We used to go at least once a year down there. We'd get a hotel room, stay a couple of nights, and hunt. Well, we thought we had the idea of going away right now, but we thought we would go to Kingston, which is the opposite direction. That's east of us. But we looked into quilt stores in that area. Not very many, like about one in Kingston. And then there's one a little bit north, about 30 kilometers north of Kingston. Now, there are a couple on the way to Kingston, excuse me, hiccups now, in a place called Belleville. But we got thinking, okay, so we drive down there, we go to the quilt stores in Belleville, we get to Kingston, we go to the one in Kingston, and that's it. And we've got 2 nights there. Kingston's a lovely town, but not that exciting. At least not when you're a quilter. Now, maybe some of you might live down that area. Maybe you know of some spots I don't. But anyways, Walter said, he'd been thinking about it, and I had been too, but until he voiced it, he says, I think we should go the opposite direction. And I agree. So we have our room booked for 2 nights. We're actually staying at a college. It's called Conestoga College. And in the summertime, they open up their residence, or one of their residents, as a hotel. And yeah, it's kind of no frills, no thrills. Actually, it's a little better than no frills, no thrills kind of setup. The price is good. The rooms are comfortable and clean. They do have a fridge. They do have a microwave. They have the bathrooms in the room as well. And there's a television. And they have great Wi-Fi, which is free. Well, it's included in the cost, put it that way. And it's good Wi-Fi. So, yeah, we've stayed there before. And we do not need to have a gorgeous lobby and a pool and a lounging area and a bar. We don't need any of that stuff. We just need a place to lay down our head at night, because we won't be there during the day. We'll be out and about. So that's what we're doing. There are lots of quilt stores. I probably will spend a fair amount of money. However, the hunt is on, because I am almost lasered focus, right now I am anyways, that I want Christmas fabric. You know that I've bought a bunch of Christmas fabric online. I went to a quilt store a little bit north of us, Kawartha Quilting. They had some, basically it was leftover fabric from, the last year or something, but it was 40% off and it was Christmas, and I found some stuff there. So I'm trying to replenish my stock of Christmas fabric, but I want more. And the reason I want more is I'm shopping for 2 years supply, like for 2 Christmases kind of a thing, because I start my Christmas projects, as you well know. Now, I started them actually in July. And I'll be working on Christmas projects until Christmas, until at least the 1st of December. So I need supplies. And sadly, my local quilt store does not have anything out yet. And for me, that's too late. I mean, I would love to buy all my Christmas fabric from my favorite quilt store. But if you don't have it out, how can I buy it? And I don't know, maybe they don't have it yet. Maybe I have read online that there has been a bit of a delay in getting Christmas fabrics out this year. I don't know. That could be it. But either way, I'm not going to get caught stuck in the lurch here with this. So when we're out in the western part of Ontario, this is what I'll be focusing on. Now, of course, I know, squirrel, I'm going to get diverted. Um, and I'll probably end up seeing something that must have, and buy that too. But yeah, it's Christmas fabric. And I know one place that's going to have a lot of Christmas fabric, and that's Windmills. This is a big warehouse, kind of, not a liquidation center, but it's kind of got a little bit of everything. But they have, the one where I'm going to in Cambridge, they have rows and aisles and rows and aisles of fabric of all sorts. Prices are not bad. They're now, last time I was there, I don't know what they are now. Who knows until I get there. But I do remember the last time I was there, they had a lot of Christmas fabrics to choose from. So that is one of the places for sure I'll definitely be making a beeline for, and I'll probably be spending several hours in there. And I will try to take video of all of these stores and everything when I'm there to show you. My problem is I tend to forget. I get so excited with all the fabric that's there, I tend to forget to take video. So I will try to remember to take video so you can see. So that's what we're up to. We're leaving on Thursday morning, coming back Saturday morning, because we have a special friends coming here on Sunday for lunch. And so how does this affect you? You may be wondering. Well, there may not be a So Chatty this week on Friday because we'll be where we're going. But I will see how the winds blow, how we feel about it, and I might do a video about what we have picked up, because at that point, if I do it late in the day, it might not actually come out until late Friday night. And maybe I can show you where we've been. We'll see. It's all a question of technology. It's a question of time and that kind of thing. Sunday, we are planning to do our usual live, Stephen and Walter live, but we have company. Now, I don't know how long the company are going to be here for. I don't know if they're planning to go back, leave after lunch to go back on their journey home, because they are from Ottawa. Ottawa is 4 hours away from us, and they are coming up this weekend to go to a concert at a casino that is about an hour and a half north of us. So this is our place on their way home. I don't know yet. I'm playing it by ear. And I certainly don't want to make them feel like I'm giving them the bum's rush because we have to do our live. So yeah, 2 events, So Chatty, Stephen and Walter Live, are a little bit up in the air as to, what's happening with those. So stay tuned. Okay, so that's what we're off to, and I'm excited because it's like a little mini vacation as well. So yeah. Okay, subscribers' comments of the week. Jen wrote to me and said, I'm not a fan of jelly rolls. This is when I was talking about Adam's quilt, and you can see them in behind me here, the stars, that you can make with leftover jelly roll strips if you want that scrappy look. I'm doing two quilts from that pattern, one in those blues and purples that you see there, and the other one in Christmas fabric strips. And so it's a great way to use up jelly rolls. But I try to stay away from buying jelly rolls, because what happens usually is you use some of the strips, but you usually have other ones that are left over, unless you have a specific project that takes, a whole jelly roll for it. So that's why Jen says she's not a fan of jelly rolls. She says, I find it easier to cut my own strips. I may not get an entire line of fabric, but I get what I want. Yes, true. A little bit more time consuming because jelly roll strips are 2.5 inches, and that's a very convenient size for lots of things. But she's right. Usually the jelly roll, you only get two, maybe three of the same pattern. And sometimes you don't even get that. Sometimes it's odd numbers. So it's almost like they've made the jelly rolls from end cuts of fabric. I don't know, maybe they do. But yeah, you can make your own strips with your own fabric, so you have much more control over what you're going to use. Kathleen wrote, "Hi Stephen, new subscriber here from the UK. Welcome, Kathleen. Started watching your videos about the problems with your 15,000. Hope they are all sorted now. The 15,000 way back when was my first major embroidery machine. It was a combination embroidery and sewing machine. It was by Janome, and it was the machine from hell, as I called it. And if you want to know what I mean by that, there is a playlist set up just for my adventures with that machine, and you'll find those in the playlists on my channel. Just about to buy a 550, upgrading from a very specific embroidery machine. One of the reasons I'm upgrading is to do quilting in the hoop." Okay. If you've been a long-time subscriber here, you know how I feel about quilting in the hoop. And Kathleen is buying a Janome 550, and I assume it's the 550E. And that's the same machine as I have right behind me here that I love and I use all the time. Never given me a bit of problem. However, I will also not quilt a quilt in that machine. And here's why. Now, you will hear people who will disagree with me completely and say, yes, they quilt their any size quilt in their embroidery machine. And I say, good for you. But what they're not telling you is what kind of machine they have. If you have one of those brother machines that has the little camera on it and a laser light, so you can position your quilt if you're going to do, like you want something that looks like an end-to-end design or edge-to-edge design, then really you need to have the laser and the camera. And those machines are top-end machines, and they are expensive, very expensive. The 550E does not have either one of those two things. Can you position your quilt in it? You can, but it's going to drive you mad. I'll tell you that. Now, if you decide that you want to just do sort of custom quilting, like you want to put the same or a different design in each block of your quilt, you could probably do that in the 550E. But again, you have to be careful what design you pick. You have to decide for yourself. Like, it depends on the size of your blocks too and your hoops. There's a lot of mathematics goes into this. So this is just not a slap it in, push a button, and set it and forget it. No. The other even more important problem to be aware of is the weight of your quilt. Quilts are heavy. All of the weight of your quilt is going to be controlled by the hoop and the mechanism that holds the hoop. That's a great deal of strain on the motors, and it can very easily knock your timing out, and that's an expensive fix, or worse, break your hoop, or even break the arm that holds the hoop. How do I know these things? Well, let's go back to the 15,000. The 15,000 was touted as being able to quilt, that use it to quilt a quilt. They didn't really show you how to do that. Their latest machine, and I'm talking about Janome, their latest machine, the M18, they are selling that as if you can quilt on it. And given what I've already said, yes and no. But you still have the weight problem. What I did on the 15,000 was, at the time, my sewing room wasn't in here. It was in the workshop, and the workshop is an unfinished part of our basement. And so I had open beams above me. I hooked up bungee cords to those beams in and around my embroidery machine with clamps on the end of them. And I would get my quilt positioned in my hoop, and then I'd clamp the corners of three corners of the quilt itself, lift it up so that the weight wasn't pressing down on the hoop, and away it'd go. It would take you to reposition everything for each hooping. It would take me like 10, 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes if all went well. And things didn't always go all that well. So, yeah. The other thing too is quilts are thick. If you're trying to hoop a quilt, good luck with that. The hoop probably can't handle that. Now, maybe these big elaborate machines that I talked about with the video camera and the laser light, maybe they have a special hoop. I do not know. I haven't investigated that can handle hooping a quilt. But for the Janome 550, no. Because it's so heavy, because it's so thick, it could pop out of your hoop while you're working on it. And if that happens, good luck trying to line everything back up again. That's the same with even small projects that aren't even involved with quilting, like the wall hanging I showed you. There are sometimes, for whatever reason, you get a bird's nest of thread underneath, and it creates tension, and it can pop the project out of the hoop, and then you're never going to get it lined up again. Ask me how I know, because I know. So I hate to rain on your parade, Kathleen. If you're doing anything bigger than a table runner, baby quilt at the most, you're going to find it agonizing, I think. Now, maybe you won't. Maybe you are better at this kind of thing than I am. I don't know. But I wouldn't buy an embroidery machine, because the reason you want an embroidery machine is because you want to quilt with it. Yes, it's a lot cheaper than buying a long arm, for sure. But I would say your time and efforts would be better spent on learning how to use your existing equipment and creating a system for yourself that you can quilt on reasonably comfortably on your domestic machine. The embroidery machine, well, as I said, good luck. And I hope you do have good luck. Just beware. You don't want to bust your machine. They're not that delicate, but if you bust it, you got to get it fixed, and that's going to cost you. Okay. So, Inez writes, the best press makes me cough. However, I bought a gallon, so cough I will until it's gone. I fill up bottles for my friends to get rid of it. Okay. Mary Ellen's best press. All right. I used to use that when I first started quilting. There's nothing wrong with it except for one thing. For me, same thing as Inez. It makes me cough. I don't know what's in it. One time I heard there was formaldehyde in it, but I've done some research on that, and that's not true. It may have went way back, maybe many, many, many moons ago, it had formaldehyde. But it doesn't today. In fact, I got 4 little sample bottles, because it comes in different scents, that the fabric I ordered from the AOL Fabric Shop in Stratford, Ontario, the Christmas fabric that I showed you a couple of weeks ago, they sent me along a freebie, and in that freebie package were 4 little bottles of Mary Ellen's Best Press. Maybe they're trying to get rid of it too. Maybe it's not selling. So I thought maybe I should just give it another try. But actually, my favorite right now is Acorn's Precision Pressing Solution. I love that stuff. It's great. It's a starch alternative like Mary Ellen's Best Press is. It's scentless, and it doesn't make me cough. So whatever is in Mary Ellen's, I'm allergic to, I guess. I don't know. All it does is make me cough. It doesn't make me break out in anything, or hives or anything. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe some of you have had same problem, but I know some of you don't have a problem at all with it. Been using it for years, never had a problem, and that's great. I'm not going to say anything against the product. I'm just telling you that for me, I don't use it because it makes me cough a lot. Okay, so thank you for the comments this week. I do love hearing your comments that say you like the things I'm making, because, you know, I like them, but it's nice to hear other people compliment me on that. And I also love your comments, your constructive, critical comments if they need to be, or your suggestions and things like that, because this is a community. And if you're one of my subscribers but you never read the comments, you should, because there are all kinds of interesting information, helpful tips and techniques and tricks that people share with everybody else in the comments. So, I don't know everything. I know you find that surprising. I don't know everything. So, it's a combination of things here from other people who have experiences in various areas of this whole little sewing journey we're going on. So do check them out and keep those comments coming. Okay, under reviews, well, last week's videos, Monday Morning Coffee with Stephen. I talked again. It's called We're on a Road Trip, but I talked about our garden. I talked about our plans for the patio. I talked about my 3D printing, and right now I'm in Christmas mode in 3D printing too, but I'm trying to make practical things. I'm also working on, and I showed it yesterday, I did a new thread stand for my embroidery machine. I don't know if I can show it. There it is, that orange and yellow thing. Holds 13 spools of thread. It's great. So far, it's been working out pretty good. Took a little time to print out because you had to print it out in pieces, but it was fairly easy to assemble. And yeah, so I'm loving that. So that's an example of a practical print. I'm also working on a new way of organizing my Floriani threads, and I have a lot of them, like about 600-700 of them, in my Alex drawer unit that I specifically bought for my Floriani threads. But the problem is, when I first put the threads in there, they bounced all over the place. They wouldn't stand upright and I was throwing things in, and it was a mess. So I did design a little thing with cutout holes that I put out of some foam. I don't know what it's called. And that's what I've been using for several years now. But of course, my drawers are getting a little messy again, and I can't find anything because I originally organized them by the number of the thread, which in hindsight, was not a good idea. I thought if I did that, then it wouldn't be a problem. Like when I knew I was getting low on a thread, I'd write down the number. I'd go to my local quilt store that sells Floriani thread, and I'd, stock up, replenish my supply. Yeah, that's not working out. What I need to do is organize them all by their colors, because, there's about 20 different shades of blue. And when you're doing in the hoop embroidery or that kind of stuff, you need those different shades to really get the shadow effects and things like that work in with these patterns. So I am in the process of reorganizing those drawers, but I needed something better for holding the spool threads. So basically I needed spool stands, like thread stands, little spiky things. I found some on one of the sites that I go to for my 3D prints. I had to do some minor editing of the files to get them to fit in, and I'm in the process of printing them, and they're working fine. So it's going to take a while because each one takes an hour so to print out, and I got a lot of drawers to go, and I need multiples of these things. So I'm working on that, and when I get all of this drawers organized and everything, I'll be sure to show them to you. Okay. On So Chatty, we went through our drawers and found some stuff we forgot we owned. And there was stuff we were questioning as to why did we buy them, because we've never really used them. So Walter had a few and I had a few, and so we shared those with everybody on So Chatty. So if you haven't seen that, go back and take a look, because I'm sure you own some of these things yourself as well. And maybe some of these things that we said we had no idea why we bought it, it was useless to us, maybe you have found a use for it, so you can let us know. And on Stephen and Walter Live, we had a conversation with my Echo. We talked to it about smart devices and the elderly. And believe it or not, AI can be very helpful to the elderly. So that was what the discussion was, amongst other things that we talked about, as we always do, on Stephen and Walter Live this past Sunday. Okay, and the repeat of that is up on my channel. So that takes me to subscribers creation of the week. This comes from, and I'm going to blow her last name, Ellen Holshabach. And yeah. And by the way, just before you see Ellen's beautiful creation, I need more creations. I'm running low. I've said it before. So keep them coming in. One picture of a quilt, a bag, a garment, a wall hanging, whatever. Placemats, table runners, Christmas gifts. One picture of something that you have made that you are proud of, and a little blurb about it, less than 50 words. And I'll be happy to feature it here on the Idiot Quilter. You'll find my email address to send it to in the About section. So if you go down into the description of the video, you will, if you go down right in the first few lines, it'll tell you how to find my email address. Okay, so here's Ellen's beautiful creation. This week's beautiful creation from a subscriber comes from Ellen Holschbach, and she writes this. I finished my puppy tote from Sweet Pea Designs. I modified it by adding interior pockets and a zipper closure. Well, this is great, and I especially love seeing this, not just because it's very beautiful and well done, and she did show the front and the back. I think it's cool. I have this same pattern, and I haven't yet made it yet, and I intend to make it for our next door neighbors who have a dachshund. So that'll be a Christmas present. But I love the idea of inserting a pocket on the inside and a zipper as well. Not sure if I could do the zipper part. I'd have to look that one up. But I think you've done a magnificent job, and it's a great looking bag, and it's really nice to see it done by somebody I know. So thanks again, Ellen, for this. And that takes me to the YouTube short tip of the week. And this is called Tiny Clip for Turning Out a Skinny Tube. Have you ever had a little strap and you have sewn it together and you have to turn it right sides out again, and trying to get any tool down inside of it to grab it or pull it through is a pain in the butt? Well, this little tip shows you how to use something as simple as a bobby pin for doing this, and you don't even have to really thread it initially inside the little strap. You just take a little clip. Well, let this video explain it for itself. It's a great little solution to a problem I think we've all had before. Now that brings me to the third part of my little series here about making what is called the African Safari Table Runner. It's an in the hoop project, and I have been showing you how I go about making that, so you get an idea of how you can do other projects with your embroidery machine. And this is a specific in the hoop one that uses both applique and thread painting. So sorry about the sound on that last segment, because I didn't realize my microphone was turned off, but I just explained exactly what you saw me doing, just trimming up the stabilizer underneath here. And now what we're going to do is, using the By George trimmer again, we're going to line up our 1/2 inch mark along the sewn line and just trim off the excess fabric on that. So we have a 1/2 inch border all the way around on the outside of the tack down line that was originally put there when we started this project. And this will also give us our seam allowance. I think it's time to change my rotary blade. It's a little dull. And there we have it. So that piece is done. So I'm going to go and make the rest of the pieces, and then I'm going to show you how to put these pieces together for the top of the table runner. Okay, I just realized that I went ahead and I sewed the whole project together and I didn't show you how to put the panels together. So I have a couple of panels here from another project that I was working on, and it's the same kind of thing, so I'm going to show you how I put it together. Now for this, I'm going to need some pins and I'm going to need some clips. Now on these pieces, what they often do is they put a stitched border all the way around the piece, and you've already seen me trim this out, so you know that I have a half inch seam allowance all the way around my piece. Now what you want to do is take your pieces and turn them so that there's right sides together. Now on the back, you'll be able to see that stitched line. Now I know that you can't see that very well in the camera. Let's see, but it's right along here. And what I want to do is take a pin and I want to find the corner of that stitched line. And I'm going to stick the pin through that corner. And then I'm going to stick it through the corner on the piece underneath. So up in here. And you want to get it as exact as you can. Now I'm going to take another pin and I'm going to put it in the opposite corner and do the same thing. Now my pieces are lined up. Now if I had a part that was extending across here in the embroidery, and I don't on this particular one, but on the African Safari I had the dark grassy line going across. I would also stick a pin on either side of those and find the equivalent mark on the piece underneath and anchor it with the pins that way. So once those are in and I've got it lined up, I'm going to put a clip or several clips right along it to secure it, because now I'm going to take the pins out. Now I'm putting this on a smaller wool mat. I find it's easier for pinning. You don't have to, but if you have something that's soft that will accept a pin going into it, you'll find that it will work a little better. So now my two pieces are together, and I will take them to my sewing machine. Now how will I sew these? I will sew right along that seam line that was stitched, that stitch line that I used for lining up, and I'll sew about 1 thread width to the inside of that stitch line. Sorry, I was out of the camera shot. Okay, so just a thread's width in from that stitch line. The reason for that is when I open it up, you will not see those stitch lines that were sewn out by the embroidery machine as a guide. Now, another tip, I use invisible thread for this, because if I don't get it quite right or something goes just slightly askew, you're not going to see the stitching. That's a little tip. And I use Superior monofilament, and it's because it's kind of soft, it's 100 weight, melts right into your fabric, it's strong, and you're not going to see it. And that's how I put all of the pieces together. The first time you do it, you're probably going to have to reposition it. And if you sew it and you don't like the way it's going, then just unsew it and realign it again until it's the way you want it. One word of advice: don't get too precious with this. You may not get all of your intersection points exactly right. That's the nature of the beast.
because your fabric is being pulled around by your embroidery stitches. So close enough is good enough. But if you use the invisible thread, that will help. It won't stand out so much as if, you used a different color. So I hope that explained it for you, but that's how I put the whole piece together. So I have the whole piece together, and so I'm going to show it to you and talk about my finishing techniques.
Okay, so I've got my whole table runner together, and I just want to talk about a few things that I did to it to finish it off. First of all, you'll notice that instead of making it very long, I made it a little shorter by doubling up on the panels. The reason for that is because I thought it would be way too long for the average table, and it looked a little skinny. Now, the way they filled it out was they put a lot of borders on it, and I thought that by doing that, it took away from the focal point, which is the panels themselves. So I doubled them up, as you can see, and I put them so that it is a reflection, which mimics the reflection that's in each panel. And also, a lot of times with table runners, people on one side of the table get to see everything that's on it. People at the other side do not. They see it upside down. So this way, everybody gets a good look at it. I did go into my African fabric supply, and I pulled out a yellow and a blue print, and you can see I use those as my borders, and I just simply cut the strips. I think the one strip was cut at 1.5 inches, so it finishes at 1, and the outside strip, the blue one, I cut at 2 inches, and it finishes at 1.5. I also layered this. I use battleizer, which is a very low loft form of batting. I like it because it allows things like table runners and placemats to lay flat. I use that, and for the backing fabric, well, you can see what I used because it's the same fabric that I used in the binding. I did a traditional binding on this. I didn't do one of those pillow turn type bindings because I find those ones make things go a little wonky sometimes. I didn't add any additional quilting because there was quilting in each one of the little panels. However, I did use my invisible thread after I joined everything together to do stitch in the ditch. And of course, if you're more in about the ditch, you're not going to see the stitching. Now, yes, I mentioned in the fact that when you put the panels together, your intersections may not, no matter how hard you try, will not necessarily line up. And you can see that here on my piece as well, but really I don't think it takes away from it. The other thing I might have done differently with this too is you'll notice there you can see some of the stitching line at the top and at the sides of the panels. What I should have done was either used a really light thread color for that when I was making the actual panels, or I should have put the borders in a little further. If I'd gone in about another 1/8 of an inch, those would not have shown up. I didn't see it until too late, and quite frankly, I didn't feel like pulling it apart. I don't think it takes away from this, but if you're going to be a perfectionist, you might want to avoid it. And the other thing too is right now I'm pointing it out to you, and you've got a close-up of the table runner. If this was on your table and there were certain things set on it, you'd never notice it. I don't think your guests would mind, unless you get one that's likes to point out your flaws and everything, and then that person should never be invited to dinner again at your house. That's how you solve that problem. Okay, so these are always fun to make. They do take some time, but I think it's going to make a nice little gift as a remembrance piece for the neighbors because they just got back from South Africa. And yeah, so I'm very pleased with the way it turned out. I think it looks great. And yeah, so I hope you learned something from this little mini series that I have done on putting together the African Safari Table Runner. I came across a interesting video this week from the Opiniated Quilter, Maureen O'Connor. She is O'Connell. I think it's O'Connell. Sorry, Maureen. And if you don't know who the Opinionated Quilter is, go to her YouTube channel because she's great. She has a lot of really useful tips and tricks. And she tells it like it is, too. She's, yes, the Opinionated Quilter. She was talking about charity quilts. And I really agreed with her about some of the points she brought up about when you're planning to do a charity quilt. You see, in my mind, a lot of people do charity quilts as what I want to call garbage quilts. They have some leftover bits and pieces of stuff. They throw it together. They don't care really about how much care and time they take with it. They just want to get it done and they give it to a charity. Well, I don't think that's the way to look at it. The people that are getting a charity quilt are people who are, you know, not maybe as lucky as the rest of us. For one reason or another, life has thrown them a curveball. And, they need some joy in their lives. And we can bring a little bit of joy into their lives with a lovely quilt. Something that's theirs, that they keep, that'll keep them warm and bring them some comfort. So I think it behooves any quilter to look at doing a charity quilt as a cast-off. And I think the Opinionated Quilter is of the same mindset because she comes up with 7 charity quilt tips every quilter needs to know. And I thought I'd focus just very quickly on some of those points. One of them, she says, is use good fabric. These are going to be used, these quilts. These are not decorative items that you're creating. They're going to be used, they're going to be loved, and they're going to get worn. If you put cheap fabric into them, if you use cheap thread, they're going to fall apart in no time at all. What's the message you're sending to the person who has received this charity quilt? That you're not worth me spending money on decent fabric? Yeah. She talks about picking a simple pattern, however. You don't need to do an Alaskan star or a Lone Star or whatever, heavy applique quilt. Because after all, these are going to be used a lot. So there's going to be a lot of wear and tear on them. So best to pick a very simple pattern for this. Don't get into curved stitching, that kind of thing, diamonds, all of that. A basic quilt. And there are lots of patterns, and she identified a few of them on her YouTube channel or on her video of the week. So check that out for where you can get some basic patterns that'll work fine for doing this kind of thing. You want to put good workmanship in it, so don't rush it. There's really not usually a deadline for charity quilts. They're ongoing projects throughout the year. So don't rush it, because when you rush, you make mistakes. And when you have a charity quilt, you go, well, that's good enough. It's not. So you want to put in the same quality of workmanship you would put into any creation that you're making. Use pre-cuts when you can with simple patterns, because that's a good way to use up your pre-cuts. Pre-cuts are still quality fabric. And it may be quicker too. And some charities have basic rules or guidelines. You want to check these out before you start. Because, like, for example, she used the example of Project Linus, and I have donated quilts to Project Linus before. These are quilts that are going to go to kids in very unfortunate circumstances. But that what they don't want is quilts that have anything to do with seasonal themes like Halloween, Christmas, Passover, Hanukkah, Easter, those kind of things. They won't accept those. So it's worth viewing this video. It's not a very long video. It's only about 10-11 minutes long, but I think it's really worth it if you're thinking about or already doing charity quilts, because I think it's the philosophy behind them. You should not give your second best work to a charity. It should always be your best work, your ongoing best practices for that kind of thing. These people really deserve that kind of care. Okay, so that's it for me today. Thank you for joining me. Tune in next week for another Idiot Quilter and for all my other videos. And I hope you have a really great week, and we'll see you later. Bye for now. Hi, I'm just going to interrupt my program for just 1 second to remind you to like the video, to subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell for future notifications. That's all I ask of you. Show me a little love. Thanks.